You know that feeling of, like, intense, absolute thirst? Not just feeling a little parched after a walk, but like you've been hiking in the blazing sun for hours.
Oh yeah, your mouth is just completely dry.
Right. Every cell in your body is just screaming for water. It basically becomes your entire reality.
You definitely stop caring about your inbox or, your schedule. You just revert to this single overriding biological imperative.
Exactly. Well, welcome to this custom deep dive. Today, we're taking that visceral physical desperation and applying it to the mind. We're analyzing a translated composition by Guru Ram Das Ji alongside historical commentaries on Rag Sorat'h.
Which is a specific musical and emotional framework in the Sikh tradition, right?
Yeah.
Meant to evoke deep spiritual reflection.
Yeah, precisely. And our mission today is to understand why this text frames spiritual connection. Not as, some casual weekend hobby, but as an absolute urgent necessity for survival.
And the text leans really heavily into these striking nature metaphors to make that point. Like, we see the image of a fish dying without water, and the chatrik, which is this songbird that supposedly only drinks a very, very specific drop of rain. In this framework, the water is the Lord's name.
I have to say, I struggle a bit with the fish metaphor, honestly. It feels, I don't know, a bit extreme.
How so?
Like if I skip meditation or spiritual reflection for a week, I don't physically die.
Is the guru just being hyperbolic here to make a point?
I mean, it sounds extreme to a modern ear, sure. But the text is arguing for a literal, existential, spiritual survival.
So not biological death.
But I think of it more like the death of awareness. Without water, the fish perishes biologically, obviously. But without that connection to the divine, the mind ceases to truly live. It just merely functions mechanically.
Wow. Okay, so the thirst of that songbird isn't just a minor inconvenience?
No, it's an unquenchable void unless it gets that specific drop of rain.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, if we are fundamentally wired to need that specific drop, ignoring it obviously creates a massive psychological toll.
Absolutely. Which kind of brings us to how the text splits human experience, contrasting the gurmukh, the guru-centered person, with the manmukh, the self-willed mind.
Right, the two distinct paths.
Yeah, and since we know those basic definitions, let's look at the psychology of the manmukh described here. They're depicted as hungry and frantically wandering in, quote, 10 directions.
I love that phrasing because that frantic energy perfectly captures modern burnout.
Oh, 100%.
The manmukh feels that deep hunger we just talked about, but tries to satisfy it with worldly things, ego, wealth, constant distraction.
But it never actually works.
Because those things aren't the water the soul actually needs, right? So the hunger never stops. It leads to profound suffering.
The text describes this state as getting trapped in a cycle of reincarnation, doesn't it?
Yes, and facing spiritual consequences in the Lord's court. The gurmukh, meanwhile, obtains the water of celestial bliss and actually blossoms.
Okay, so say a person realizes they're acting like a manmukh, just flopping on dry land, completely exhausted from chasing mirages in all 10 directions. Yeah. How do they actually access this celestial water?
Well, the text introduces a pretty frustrating truth for high achievers. You cannot hustle your way into this state.
Wait, really? You can't just try harder?
Nope. The ultimate remedy relies entirely on divine mercy.
Oh, wow.
It's through grace that a person comes to sing the divine praises and, discovers that the elixir is already deep within themselves.
Hold on. If it's all up to divine mercy, what is the role of the individual? Do we just sit back and wait for grace to hit us?
Not exactly. It's about shifting your internal orientation. The text points to the Shabad, which is the divine word or wisdom.
Okay, so engaging with the Shabad changes the psychological mechanism.
Exactly. It's not that you suddenly obtain all the worldly things you were frantic about. Instead, the Shabad neutralizes Trishna.
And Trishna is that endless, burning, worldly desire itself, right?
Yes. When the mind is fully occupied by the vastness of the divine, those petty worldly desires simply run out of oxygen.
You aren't fighting the desire, it just shrinks in comparison.
Right. The thirst itself is extinguished.
Yeah.
It's this fundamental shift from perpetual desperation to profound stillness.
That's incredible. We go from the agonizing thirst of the fish and the songbird, far away from the frantic wandering of the self-willed mind, straight to celestial peace through divine grace.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. So look at your own day-to-day life. Where are you currently wandering in 10 directions looking for fulfillment? And what might your true water be to finally bring your mind to rest?